Do you think that you are capable of changing people's minds about the roles that you're set to play? So you don't have to play either the friend or the love interest, but you want to play something more serious?
Yeah. Yeah, I do think I can do that. And I hope I can I get the chance to do that sometime. But yes, I do believe that I am more than the best friend or the love interest.
But I'm surprised by the number of breakdowns that I see. It's like I'll see these breakdowns and they're like, it's an entirely white cast. It's like not a single person of color. And I'm like, how the hell is that a reflection of real life? You drive around Los Angeles and you just look at the people, or New York or any major city, you know, minorities, if you're African American, they're probably 10 to 12 to 15% of the population. Hispanics are probably 30 or 40%. Well, how do you do a movie that's set in modern times in Los Angeles and don't have a single person of color in it? And it just, you know, it just amazes me. Like, I couldn't do a movie with an all-black cast because it wouldn't be reflective of reality, you know? So, you know, it's sometimes frustrating by the number of roles that just aren't available, and then the ones that are, there's still a stereotype that's there. And, you know, hopefully one day that'll change.
I feel like the struggle is not necessarily in the casting room now. I feel like the struggle is now with encouraging writers to write those interesting roles. Because now in the casting room, people are more aware and mindful, and so if there is discrimination or stereotypes or even racism, it's a little bit more tactful. You know, they're not as blatant about it. They're not going to say, "Oh, will you do martial arts?" Even if they might be thinking about it, they won't say it because, you know, it's a little more of a political conversation now, so people are more mindful. But I don't think that it means that the paradigm isn't there, or that the thinking or the logic isn't there, because, you know, it's sort of old habits and old behavior. So I think that you still see a residual effect of it there.
Physically, my type limits me because people look at me and they see I'm really skinny, so I will get cast as gay characters, or, you know, just like really like the comedic relief type characters in like plays. But my voice, and, you know, lends me to do things like Titus Andronicus, or Aaron in Titus Andronicus by William Shakespeare. I can do The Tragedy of Coriolanus by William Shakespeare. I have a really like strong speaking voice for that language. So it really just depends. Like I like to go to auditions and really like, wow, people like to say like, oh, I wasn't expecting this guy to be able to do that.
They were talking amongst themselves, and that's the first impression that I got, where they looked at one another and they said, well, what do you think? He makes a good cholo, or he makes a good, you know, gangster. And that was it. I mean, there wasn't any more, you know, roles, you know. Those were pretty much it for me.
I have mixed feelings about it. You know, once again, it's a blessing just to be cast in anything. So I still try to stay optimistic about what I'm being casted for, even if it's something that I am, you know, starting to be overwhelmed with, like, well, I'm an educated man, you know. I know, you know, the exterior can come off as, you know, that's typical, you know, social stereotype. But once again, I have so much to offer. So with that being said, I would like to do that with my characters, and, you know, and get to play other roles, and, you know, experience other roles and other characters that I know that are out there, versus being still, you know, confined to that one, hey, you're a black guy, so you're the bad guy. You're a black guy, hey, you're the drug dealer. You know, at times, like I said, it does become discouraging, but once again, it's just a blessing to be able to get to act, period. I'm not a drug dealer or a bad guy, so I'm acting. So once again, I do take it as a blessing and just look at it optimistic.
In the beginning, it was fun, but then it got kind of more frustrating because I wanted to show what I got and what I can do and what I can act, and because there's a lot of typecasting, I have the feeling, in this industry. It is really hard for me to actually, you know, get dramatic roles or go out for them, or, you know, to be the protagonist in whatever they're looking for, because they don't see me as one and they won't cast me as one, I have the feeling, because I've never gone out for the big major roles in, you know, web series or movies or whatever.
Why can't just black women be normal people And I feel like the media, I mean, entertainment industry impacts how people look at other cultures. I know this is deteriorating from what you said, but an example was I was hanging out with some of my friends from Japan. They just started interacting with black people. Me and my girlfriend were the first black girls they've ever hung out with. And they kept asking us, like, do you guys talk like this? Why don't you guys say that? And I'm like, wow. And that's what they see in movies. Because black girls are like this, and in music videos, black girls are shaking their asses. But yet, me and my girlfriend and I were very proper, and we speak very good English, that they were so shocked, you know. So that's the way media portrays black women, right. You know, with that, and it brings the money, right? So some people, you have to go for the money, because I mean, you have to survive, right?
Growing up in the projects, you see another sense of the world. And you want to bring that out, and that's why, you know, ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to be an actor to show people that. And at first, I was very reluctant. I was like, you know what, we're not just your gangsters, or your mobsters, your drug cartels, or your janitors. We're businessmen, we're lawyers, we're, working father in the fields, etc. And I think I did a disservice to myself and to the public by really not taking on those roles. And so now, in hindsight, now I embrace it wholeheartedly. I do embrace it, like, with the passion to show those, emotional, intangible elements that, the audience wouldn't know they exist. So now I actually tackled those projects on purpose.
I have several Mexican American actor friends, or some of them are Latin American, South American or whatever, and they get really frustrated because they have to go in there and play the gangbanger, and they get frustrated. And for me, we live in LA, and so the Hispanic population is really, really big here. It's prominent, and a lot of the writers in LA are very aware of that culture. They're aware of sort of the fact that a lot of people here in LA speak Spanish, and you almost have to. And so a lot of that filters into the material that we do here in LA. And so for me, I say to him, well, at least you're getting jobs, man, And I know a lot of my friends who are Middle Eastern, I mean, like years ago, after 9/11, when we were dealing with Homeland Security, that became such a big, prominent sort of piece of the conversation. And I had friends who were Middle Eastern, and they suddenly were working, because that became, a centerpiece for the country in terms of how shows that we see. And so, it's really interesting, so one side you're like, oh, but the other side is like, hey man, you're working. But I do think in Hollywood, whether you're white or minority, I think there's truth to what you said, which is that they have to know what type you are before you can start stretching yourself.